So it's April, and taxes have been deferred for a month. So let's talk about the other big April holiday, April Fools. And it was back in 1998 that Mark Boslough wrote a amazing little story about the Legislature of Alabama. Um, so I had a little video I made of that. Is it okay if we screen share and run that? Okay. So let me share my screen and desktop. Okay. And so here, you'll notice at the top here, nmsr.org, alabama.htm, that is our Alabama Pie webpage. And so here's the video. The most recent mention of Alabama Pie was just a couple weeks ago on Jeopardy. So here we go. It's mostly a silent video, but when we get to Jeopardy, it'll be sound. Yeah, we've made Topps cards, Good Morning America, and Jeopardy.
This is Jeopardy! Introducing today's contestants. A writer originally from Tavistock, Ontario, Canada, Scott Schufelt. A librarian from St. Clair Shores, Michigan, K.T. Blow. And our returning champion, a law clerk from Houston, Texas, Emily Seaman, whose one-day cash winnings total $8,400. And now, here is the guest host of Jeopardy, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Thank you, Johnny Gilbert, and welcome to Jeopardy. Emily, you choose first from these Jeopardy categories. Starting off with April Fool, U.S. Geography, Science and Scientists, TV and Film, Safe at Home, and Out at First, and out will be in the first syllable of every one of your responses. Emily, take it away.
April Fool for 400?
We hope math teachers weren't fooled by the rumor that Alabama voted to change this to 3.0, a biblical value. Emily.
What is pi?
Right.
April Fool for 200?
Okay, that's it for the video. Okay. Super. So, oh, yes, we got some thumbs up there. Mark, what would you think of reading the story? I could put the original story on screen share, and then we'd have an audio recording of Mark Boslough reading Alabama Pie, preserved for posterity.
Okay, well, I don't think I've ever performed this piece of work before, but
this is going to be a performance.
I'm happy to do it if I can read it on my screen.
Okay, I'm going to share screen, and let's see if we can make this work. Okay, so there we are. And it does look like we're still sharing. Okay, there's the original
Boy, I better
epic.
get my glasses on.
I can
Oh, no,
embiggen
that's
it.
not going to help.
Here, let me work my. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, that's
How's
okay.
that?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, if you can scroll down as
Yeah,
when I
so
get
I'll be
down to the bottom.
scrolling with you
Okay,
and letting members in as they enter.
so it looks like this is the version that was actually published in NMSR reports,
Correct.
April 1998 edition. Alabama Legislature lays siege to pie. By April Holiday, the socialized press. So there's no clues in here. Huntsville, Alabama. NASA engineers and mathematicians in this high-tech city are stunned and infuriated after the Alabama state legislature narrowly passed yesterday, March 30th, 1998, passed a law yesterday redefining pi, a mathematical constant used in the aerospace industry. The bill to change the value of pi to exactly 3 was introduced without fanfare by Leonard Lee Lawson, R. Crossville, and rapidly gained support after a letter writing campaign by members of the Solomon Society, a traditional values group. Governor Guy Hunt says he will sign it into law on Wednesday. The law took the state's engineering community by surprise. It would have been nice if they had consulted with someone who actually uses pi, said Marshall Bergman, a manager at the Ballistic Missile Defense Organization. According to Bergman, pi, and in parentheses it's P, but that might be a font error. I think that's supposed to be the
I
Greek
can
letter
fix
pi.
that. That's my fault.
Is a Greek letter that signifies the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. It is often used by engineers to calculate missile trajectories. Professor Kim Johansson, a mathematician from the University of Alabama, said that pi is a universal constant and cannot arbitrarily be changed by lawmakers. Johansson explained that pi is an irrational number, which means that it has an infinite number of digits after the decimal point and can never be known exactly. Nevertheless, she said, pi is precisely defined by mathematics to be 3.14159 plus as many more digits as you have time to calculate. I think that it's the mathematicians that are being irrational, and it's time for them to admit it, said Lawson. The Bible is very clearly says in 1 Kings 7:23 that the altar font of Solomon's temple was 10 cubits across and 30 cubits in diameter, and that it was round in compass. Lawson called into question the usefulness of any number that cannot be calculated exactly, and suggested that never knowing the exact answer could harm students' self-esteem. We need to return to some absolutes in our society, he said. The Bible does not say that the font was 30-something cubits. Plain reading says 30 cubits, period. Science supports Lawson, explains Russell Humbles, a propulsion technician at the Marshall Space Flight Center who testified in support of the bill before the legislature in Montgomery on Monday. Pi is merely an artifact of Euclidean geometry. Humbles is working on a theory in which he says will prove that pi is determined by the geometry of three-dimensional space, which is assumed by physicists to be, quote, isotropic, or the same in all directions. There are other geometries, and pi is different in every one of them, says Humbles. Scientists have arbitrarily assumed that space is Euclidean, he says. He points out that a circle drawn on a spherical surface has a different value for the ratio of circumference to diameter. Anyone with a compass, flexible ruler, and globe can see that for themselves, suggests Humbles. It's not exactly rocket science. Roger Learned, a Solomon Society member who was in Montgomery to support the bill, agrees. He said that pi is nothing more than an assumption by the mathematicians and engineers who were there to argue against the bill. These nabobs waltzed into the Capitol with an arrogance that was breathtaking, Learned said. Their prefatory deficit resulted in a polemical stance at absolute contraposition with the legislature's puissance. Some education experts believe that the legislation will affect the way math is taught to Alabama's children. One member of the state school board, Lily Ponya, is anxious to get the new value of pi into the state's math textbooks, but thinks that the old value should be retained as an alternative. She said, as far as I'm concerned, the value of pi is only a theory and we should be open to all interpretations. She looks forward to students having the freedom to decide for themselves what value pi should have. Robert S. Dietz, a professor at Arizona State University who has followed the controversy, wrote that this is not the first time a state legislature has attempted to redefine the value of pi. A legislator in the state of Indiana unsuccessfully attempted to have that state set the value of pi to 3. According to Dietz, the lawmaker was exasperated by the calculations of a mathematician who carried pi to 400 decimal places and still could not achieve a rational number. Many experts are warning that this is just the beginning of a national battle over pi between traditional values supporters and the technical elite. Solomon Society member Lawson agrees. We just want to return pi to its traditional value, he said, which according to the Bible is 3. And then there's a link to sciencemag.org. And as you get to the end, the last part is april/fool.htm in case people miss the reference to April holiday.
Happy April Fool's Day, upside down. Yeah, let's see if this science article is still there.
I actually...
might be a dead link now.
It's a dead link. I checked it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to, yeah. Oh, well, that's the way of the internet. Well, thanks, Mark. So I wanted to show one thing. Well, let's discuss it for a while, and we'll stop sharing. But I've got a couple more things to share when it's the proper time. But let's open up the floor for questions. How's that? I had a question. So one of those people you were making fun of was clearly Millie Ponya. So did she really say something like that about creationism? That
yeah, she did say something like that, and I actually went. I started searching through old email, and I couldn't find my files from that era. I don't know where they are. They're probably on a disk somewhere. Because I don't tend to throw things away, and I was hoping to find like a lot of our old Subducts group discussion. I think we had started Subducts by then, but I couldn't find it. It's got to be on a server. Stuff tends not to go away. If you look hard enough, you can find it. But I do remember what she did. You know, there was this kind of, I mean, so even back then in the 90s. The sort of anti-science conservatives were kind of adopting this sort of lefty kind of postmodern language about, oh, there's really no such thing as the truth and we should always present all sides. And, you know, the appearance was, you know, we're just like so accepting of every idea. Well, at the time they were trying to squish the scientific perspective. And so I do remember her saying something along those lines at some point.
They were trying to cancel evolution, as I recall.
So was that the origin of this? Was her and the
yeah, so all those names, every single name I picked, some of them you probably recognize who I was referring to, like Kim Johansson was Kim Johnson, only I sprung the misgendering halfway through. And then there was Marshall Bergman, which was one of ours, Marshall Berman, who ran for the school board opposing Millie Ponya and defeated her. And went on to serve one term in the board, maybe 2 terms. I don't remember.
think
I think 1
2.
term, like it was a 4-year term.
He got to be vice president,
Oh, he got to be vice president.
and he did get evolution back in the standards.
Yeah.
A
And then there was
successful term.
Leonard Lee Lawson of Crossville, which was Leonard Rawson of Las Cruces. So a lot of these quotes were very similar to what those people actually said, but of course twisted to relate to pi being equal to 3 and
I always assumed that was a parody of Roger Leonard.
No, there was Roger Learned. Roger Learned was Roger
okay.
Leonard,
Okay.
and he always used these big words like fancy words like croissants.
He was a regular Spiro
I hope
Agnew.
I'm saying it right. and that was very similar to some quote from a op-ed or something that he had written for the Albuquerque Journal, trying to convince everyone that scientists were arrogant for only wanting the scientific point of view.
So I posted this story on one of the Usenet bulletin boards way before there was Facebook or Twitter. People used these bulletin boards, and they had threaded conversations. So the morning of April 1st, I posted Mark's story, and then that afternoon, I posted a full confession and explained how it was a parody about New Mexico's creationism problem, but it was too late. People had forwarded it to friends, they forwarded it to their friends, and before we knew it, the Alabama legislature was fielding phone calls from reporters saying, "Did you really change the value of pi to 3.0?" And one of the so I tracked it on I think it was called Deja News. It's defunct now, but it's one of these news readers where you could look at these threads and you could search for Alabama Pi. So when we entered Alabama Pi, we could see the virus spreading over the world, and it was appearing in China and Finland and Argentina. And so I do have another screen share. Oh, but one of the funniest mentions was it was picked up by somebody that was in a chat group about Tori Amos, the singer. So it was like a Tori Amos fan club, and for her signature, she really liked the line about the mathematicians being irrational, and so that was her signature, and so that was fun. But let me show you one of the mutations. So this thing, it was a virus, and it mutated.
Yeah.
And so after a couple months, May 27th, a UNM physics professor, and looks like Dave Finley, sent us that he had found another version that had been mutated, and some of these mutations were adaptations for survival. So where there was Governor Guy Hunt, who actually was an Alabama governor, he wasn't the current governor, but he was a governor at one time. So he got mutated into Governor Fob James, the current governor. So they repaired the article to make it more realistic.
I think if I had put the name Fob James, and people would assume that it was a joke with a name like that, but I actually, when I wrote that, I didn't know who the governor was. I think I must have looked it up in some outdated reference.
Well, it was just another clue. And then Kim Johansson got mutated into Professor Homer Carlisle. And state school board member Lily Ponia was morphed into Judy Ull. And those are real people, I believe, at Auburn.
Ah, okay.
So, and then Professor Homer Carlisle, the real thing, at Auburn, and the real Judy Ull, undergraduate student advisor, emailed me and informed me that the students who mutated the Alabama Pi legend were probably from their own department at Auburn. And so, we were able to track this mutation as it went around the world through Alabama and all the way back to
Well,
Mexico.
it's funny because I was mentoring a student at UNM shortly after this, and I had, I was kind of teaching him about, how to do research, and I thought a neat project, which it turned out he never did, but I was hoping he would be to create a phylogenetic tree of mutations of this story. So you can actually kind of figure out the order of mutations and then how they are inherited and other mutations. So there's like mutation and there's crossover. So as somebody changes a name and then somebody adds a new mutation later, and there's divergence. And it would have been fun to, and it, I guess, still could be done, to create a tree. We know what the first version of it was, so it wouldn't be that difficult to figure out how different versions inherited from one another, and there would be a branching tree, like mammals, are the ones that
Oh yeah,
had the name changes, and then something else had a different change but preserved the old original names, and you could kind of create this branching structure, kind of like people who study the evolution do.
yeah. Nick Motzke did exactly that, a textual phylogeny
Yeah.
of creationist builds. And in 2007, the Discovery Institute came out with this model bill for academic freedom, and it was really
Oh, right.
cover for teachers to introduce evidence for and against evolution
Yeah.
in their science classes. And so he analyzed it, and there were hundreds of bills in Oklahoma, Alabama, New Mexico, and he made the phylogeny, and you could see how these bills evolved, and you could see that the language sort of became, instead of more strident, sort of less strident, a little, cagier, not quite
Right.
as overtly creationist.
Well,
And
yeah, there
and he
was this induced mutation of the word creationism to intelligent design, right?
yeah, but
Everything was
Motzke,
exactly the same, but then there was this abrupt, transformation of the word creationism to intelligent design.
yeah, and Barbara Forrest captured that. She talked about that a couple meetings ago. But Nick Motzke was able to show this phylogeny and figure out which bills evolved from other bills, and pretty impressive work there.
Well, as I recall, they even were able to show the mechanism of the mutation, because I don't remember the details, but they were doing a global cut and paste from creationism to intelligent design.
So
But
that is in the book
yeah,
of Pandas and People. So
okay.
that's slightly different. It's not the legal bills that were in the
Oh, okay.
legislatures, but that came up at the Dover trial, and
Yeah,
and so I might have a picture of that.
yeah.
Um, I'll look for that while you talk some more.
Well, yeah, so you have the details, but they didn't actually take into account that there was various uh, variations on creationism. In some cases, it was creationist or something, but they were doing a global search and replace. So it left a few extra letters where they tried to do the search and
Yeah,
cut and paste.
I've got that chart
And
right now,
you
so I'm
actually have
gonna
the chart. Well, that's
screen
you're in the right
share,
place for that. Yeah.
and here we go. So this is Barbara's Forrest's chart, and she was our speaker just back in January, I think. And so this is the evolution of pandas and people. And so back in 1983, it was still called creation biology. And then in 1986, the title changed to biology and creation, then biology and origins in 87. And then that's when the change to pandas went. and they all got this through Freedom of Information Act. They got copies of the actual edits, and so you can see here are the words intelligent design. 0 occurrences in creation biology, but 80, 100, 120 mentions of creationism or creationist or what have you. And then 1987, that's when they said, oh, let's, instead of saying creationist, let's say intelligent design theorist. And instead of creationism, let's say intelligent design. And they basically did a cut and paste. And here you see the creationism is virtually absent. And now it's all about intelligent design. And there was even a transitional fossil, an edition of the book that had intelligent design proponent cysts, which they took intelligent design and replaced it with creation. So instead of creationists, you had creation intelligent design proponent cysts. It was pretty funny. Okay.
The thing is that's how mutations actually work.
Yeah.
They kind of backfired on them.
That is funny.
Okay.
Transcription errors.
I
And then
think
eventually
Ken,
they fix themselves as the more fit one outcompetes the one with the error.
Ken's got a question.
Yeah, Mark, I understand you tried to kill this whole thing, but couldn't. Have you given up on that?
No, I don't think I tried to kill it. I mean, I was pretty amused by it. So, it took off way beyond what we could have possibly expected. I'm a little skeptical of some of the press. I mean, so I never saw any kind of confirmation that the Alabama state legislature was actually getting calls. I mean, was that ever confirmed, or was that a reliable source, whoever made that first claim?
I think it was.
Okay.
I
don't know.
I've got some news stories from the time that I saved. So
Yeah.
let's do another screen share and have a look at those.
Definitely makes it a better story if it's true.
Oh, yeah. But before we go to that, here is that work that Nick Motzke did. And this shows just a portion of this huge phylogeny of the creationist bills. And here's a couple of New Mexico's bills. And they, basically evolved from the Oklahoma bill.
Oh, yeah.
And then that was also morphed into the Florida bill and the Texas bill and another New Mexico bill and another Oklahoma, another New Mexico. So pretty interesting. Okay, so let us go back to Alabama Pie. And okay, rest easy. Pie is not changing. This is from May 7th, 1998. And if you believe what you read on the internet, it did. Alabama students need not quit using 3.14 when finding the area of a circle. It ended up on a Huntsville radio station and prompted calls to the Huntsville Times. Brian Hansen, data systems manager for the legislature, said he received a call Wednesday from a Chicago radio station inquiring about the legislation. He said he had no idea how the story originated. The first giveaway, the story is a hoax. It says Governor Guy Hunt planned to sign. He hasn't been governor since '93, so 5 years. And their purported sponsor, Leonard Lee Lawson, Art Crossville doesn't exist. University of Alabama professor Kim Johansson and math professors at Alabama say they've never heard of Johansson. But they've heard plenty about the internet story. We had a good time with it, said Professor Martin Dixon, who said the math department received the story from someone at Purdue University. Katie Clark at Purdue Life Sciences Library said she got this story from science librarian Richard Funkhauser, who read it on Yale University posting, who had received the story from a Hawaii address. No, I didn't write it, said Liz Bryson, an official with the Canada France Hawaii Telescope Organization in Honolulu. We've had a lot of fun with it, though. She said she'd heard this story was an April Fool's joke, one that apparently wouldn't die. And Indiana actually did try to legislate the value of pi,
Yeah.
but the Senate let the bill die after Professor Waldo explained the idiocy of that. Here's one from a German newsletter, 11th of May. There's the original German, if anybody wants to tackle that. But here's John Fleck's translation using Babelfish. You know, before we had Google Translate, we had Babelfish. April jokes live longer. Munich, thanks of the internet's live April jokes longer than usual. Since weeks geistert, the message by the electronic media, the state of Alabama wants the value of pi legally on 3 to determine instead of the accurate value. The text contains statements of NASA engineers and professors and works so genuinely that even newspapers and radio senders already inquired in Alabama about the details. From where the message comes, nobody knows. There's the Yale University points out that actually once there was an attempt to determine the value of pi legally, Indiana in 1897. And John Cohegan, our former president, vice president, had this to say about the Indiana law. Yeah, and how it was derailed by the results of Purdue mathematician C.A. Waldo, who declined an offer to meet with the bill's author, saying he was acquainted with as many crazy people as he cared to know. Yeah.
Well, this is even better than I had remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. Yeah.
I'm going to click over to this one. Talk Origins Post of the Month. And so Talk Origins was this Usenet. Where did I go? There we are. And so I posted this is my confession that was posted on the afternoon of April 1st. This is the one that was already too late. The cat was out of the bag, and basically explained how we created a new life form on the Usenet pages, and went over the how Leonard Lee Lawson was modeled after Leonard Lee Rawson. Marshall Bergman was, of course, Marshall Berman. Tim Johnson. Russell Humphreys was, of course, Russell Humphreys. And Roger Learned was Roger X. Leonard. That's a great parody name. These nabobs waltzed into the Capitol with an arrogance that was breathtaking. Their prefatory deficit resulted in a polemical stance at absolute contraposition to the legislature's puissance. And I think that's a real Leonardism. I mean, that's right up there with Spiro Agnew and nattering nabobs of negativism. Yeah,
that's how Leonard wrote. I don't know if he actually spoke that way, but he certainly
no. Okay,
wrote
so
that
this
way.
is just in the style of Roger Leonard. Okay. Here's the real thing. The proponents of the bill, Senate Bill 155, swept into Santa Fe with an arrogance that was breathtaking, even with the puissance within the puissance-laden halls of the legislature. Wow, that's the real thing. So, and then explains how I posted the entire piece at Mark's suggestion. And I included this April Fool HTML web address, Associated Press. I only posted in Talk Origins, which was the Creation Evolution Usenet bulletin board. And I posted a full confession that night. And creationists complained a little bit. There were some chuckles from Finland. And after a few days, it all died down, or so I thought. A couple of weeks later, I decided to see if there were any new comments on the now dead pie hoax, and using Deja News, there were hundreds of hits. It had grown exponentially. It was proliferating and mutating all over the world, and the clues that we put in there were mutated. Associated Press became SLA Physics. Alabamans were flaming each other about it in their news group, and the Chinese were talking about it. Republicans and Democrats were arguing. The math groups were arguing, and it got picked up by an urban legends group. But it's also a big hit in Jewish culture. So,
Wow.
so it got forwarded to other news groups like Sci.math, but I only posted the confession to Talk.origins, and so my confession is what went extinct. Pie hoax itself was strong and healthy, and there's the bit about Tori Amos. So from Norway, R.A. Morton Broughton picked up a line, and so her internet signature in this Tori Amos group and many others include, I think it is the mathematicians that are being irrational, and it is time for them to admit it, Leonard Lee Lawson. Wow. So I'd say in this article, more than half of the internet people realize it's a hoax, but there are quite a few who thought or think it's real. And then I posted this on Talk Origins. It got post of the month, and that's where we are right now. Talk Origins, great. So that was pretty fun.
Well, I concluded after that too that a successful April Fool's joke, one that was most likely to go viral, is one in which about half the people get the joke and about half the people don't. And so what that does is it kind of optimizes the R naught, the rate at which it spreads, because the people who get the joke will, if they think they know something that a lot of other people don't know, they're more inclined to send it to their friends, to trick their friends. And the people who don't get it are outraged, so they send it too. And so it kind of, if everybody gets it, well, then it's not that much fun. And if nobody gets it, I guess it's also not that much fun. So
So you're
There's gotta
introducing
be a
the
differential
concept
equation
of
for
R
that.
naught for pranks.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
historical. We're seeing science right in front of our eyes, right here. Wow. Did you have something, Mark?
Oh, I was gonna say,
Fraser?
there's gotta be a differential equation for that.
Oh yeah, you probably could write one. I mean, yeah, that's true. There is a sweet spot for sure.
Mhm.
And it's somewhere in the middle. If you saturate, if everybody's vaccinated and everybody gets the joke, it's like there's no incentive to spread something that everybody immediately gets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, then the parody has to be so funny that they just spread it because it's a joke. But it's more fun to trick people. I
Yeah,
think.
it's got to have a
Tell jokes.
patina of reality
Yeah.
to grab the public in a engaging way.
But
Well,
yeah, I hadn't recalled all those news, those contemporaneous news
Well,
stories. And
I'm glad I saved them just by including them on our webpage, because I'm
yeah,
sure they're long gone now. If you tried to
yeah.
find those original articles, that's 22 years ago or 23 now.
I almost think somebody should create a Wikipedia page dedicated to this particular
Wow,
joke,
I know just the people to do that.
just to archive, to archive it, because it has been consistently in the top 10. April Fools, every April 1st or March 30th, lots of, this gets recycled by some, and usually several news organizations, when they write a fluff piece on April Fools. It's always one of the top 10 and has been consistently for about 20 years. I think it's appeared as #1 a couple of times.
Okay, we are not. It doesn't look like we're on Wikipedia, but I could talk to the guerrilla skeptics. They do Wikipedia pages, but in the meantime, I found it's on Snopes. So if you like Snopes, Alabama Slice of Pie is a Snopes article back in October of 1998. This is impressive. Responding to pressure, Alabama state legislature redefined pi to 3 in order to bring it in line with biblical precepts. False origin. This wonderful bit of creative writing began circulating in April 1998, and there's the original Pi saga that Mark wrote, and Robert Dietz. Yeah, there's Boslough. So you're on Snopes, Boz. That's pretty impressive.
Hey,
Well, I should certainly link this on the NMSR page, but I'll talk to our guerrilla skeptic friends and see if we could get something like that. We have a lot of original graphics we could provide, and the Tennessee law was mentioned in Robert Heinlein's "Stranger in a Strange Land." Amazing.
so Tennessee did it too, in addition to Indiana, or was that pure fiction in that novel that Heinlein wrote?
I think he just referenced it in the novel.
But that was Indiana that actually tried to do it, and here it
Oh,
says
it's Tennessee. Yeah, it should be Indiana. The Indiana House of Representatives, and then Robert Heinlein makes passing mention of Tennessee's enacting a law, so that could be another prank.
Could be.
Because it's not Indiana. Fascinating.
Well, and Tennessee was where the Scopes trial was, so maybe it was a reference to that.
Could
Maybe we weren't
be,
the first
could
to
be.
make a connection between that and creationism.
But here's the wiki page on Indiana's pie, and when I searched for Alabama, that's it.
Yeah.
Alabama changes the value of pi. Related hoax at Snopes.
Ah, okay.
Okay, well that's that's progress. Okay. Oops. All right. Stop sharing. Okay. So, anybody else have some questions? I have another prank we could talk about for a little bit.
This is a great example of Poe's law, right?
Nathan Poe, yes, who said without a smiley or some overt indicator of sarcasm, there are some fundamentalist articles and web pages that are it's impossible to distinguish the real thing from parody, because some of the fundamentalists, it's like who's heard of GodHatesFags.com? It's this over-the-top protest group that they would protest funerals of soldiers. It's just a hateful group, but people accused their leader of actually being a deep cover liberal that was trying to make homophobes look bad, and doing a really good job of it. So yeah, the God
Westboro Baptist Church, wasn't it? Called
now
the
Westboro Baptist Church is a parody, yeah. And Betty Bowers, I don't if who's on Twitter, raise your hand. But definitely follow Betty Bowers, because she tweets every day, really good, perceptive tweets, and they make little videos. The Betty Bauer videos are just hilarious.
Well, Stephen Colbert brought that whole, posing as a conservative to a high art, right?
Oh,
And there
yeah.
were people who actually thought he was a conservative jerk.
Indeed.
Dave, I thought you said the Westboro Baptist Church was satire. Did I
It
mishear
is.
that?
Yeah, I
I'm
thought
pretty-
this.
No, the Westboro Baptist Church is the real one.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the real thing. So Landover Baptist.
Yeah.
That is the parody, Landover Baptist.
Yeah.
The Westboro Baptist was the God Hates Fags.
Yeah, that was the God Hates Fags group.
Oh, okay. I've got one more screen share. I found a Betty Bowers video. So is everybody up to? It's like a 3-minute video. And I got this nice freedom is conformity.
Americans' favorite word is freedom, which is odd since their favorite thing is conformity. For example, today when they talk about freedom, they mean don't take away my freedom to be exactly like the few people I'm still talking to. And don't take away our freedom to cancel anyone in our own party who exercises their freedom not to conform. That would be you, Liz Cheney. For example, when conservatives protest mask mandates because of freedom, they are not doing it so everyone has the freedom to decide whether or not to wear one. No. They are doing it so everyone has the pressure to conform to not wearing one. You have the freedom to be just like me. Liberals have similar social pressure to conform to wearing one. But at least that conformity is based on science, not just a bratty need to do whatever the hell you want to, no matter who gets hurt. You doubt me? Exercise your freedom to sashay into a rural bar in Texas wearing a mask, or better, two. Or a conservative megachurch, a gay Judas in the middle of performing a late-term abortion on the altar would get a warmer reception. It's the same thing with vaccines, only it affects both sides more. Liberal and white evangelical anti-vaxxers claim it is against their freedom to be forced to take them. But it is really all about using peer pressure and Facebook propaganda to force other people not to take them. Whether it's liberal anti-vaxxers or conservative anti-maskers, everyone has the freedom to make up their own science, even if it kills grandma and your kids or someone else's kids. Oops! They had to die for my freedom. Americans have the freedom to conform to nonsense and then scold others for not towing the line, a line that goes straight to intensive care. And that conformity is why white evangelicals are the Americans least likely to take any of the COVID vaccines. They and other anti-vaxxers may not believe in Darwin, but they are going to discover that he believes in them. Because political freedom is like religious freedom. Religious freedom is not a freedom for everyone to follow their own beliefs or none. No, it's the expectation that everyone conforms to the beliefs of conservative Christians, even when they don't conform to those beliefs themselves. Well, especially when they don't themselves, like always. Let's be honest. In today's America, freedom often just means being free to be dumb and expect everyone you know to do likewise, or else, because freedom is conformity. Glory.
Yes, this is Betty Bowers. Okay. Let's just try one quick search for Landover Baptist. See if they're still out there. They've got a Wikipedia. Oh, here we go. Landover Baptist Church, guaranteeing salvation since 1620. Excellent. Yeah. To build cages for Mexican children. The Jesus thong. Transgender smut in Toy Story 4. Wow. You are unsaved. You are not allowed within a 10-mile radius of our church, nor are you allowed on this website. Kindly leave and be about the devil's business, for you are not welcome here. Glory. Click on this link and we'll help you get started. Shall I? Plan of salvation? Okay, limited. Oh man, this is kind of out of date.
Too late.
Oh yeah. If you are unsaved, this is your day for a limited time. Receive our certification of eternal security. Gives you access to special Landover Baptist Church events on Judgment Day evening. Yeah. $2,000 to seal a verbal covenant. Wow. Anywhere. We dare you to find someone offering this package for a lower price. Yeah, this is awesome. So it looks like they haven't updated too recently. Oh wow, finance charge, $839. Be sure to include the note asking for the pamphlet. Please, Jesus, don't send me to hell. The finance charge is mandatory, so we know you are serious about God. We cover salvation processing costs in adding you to our database of prospective tithers. Salvation plan comes with an $11,750 activation charge, subject to credit approval. Well, that sounds like a recent candidate's activity with the little check boxes to suck in the followers. Pretty impressive. Alrighty. So, who here has heard about the prank we did the year after, the 1999 prank called Onyate Man? Has anybody? Of course, Bill remembers it. Boslough. Can I show a little bit about Onyate Man real quick? Let's fire up. We're just winging it today. Mark and I decided, well, let's wing it. So here we go. Onyate Man. There's the archive. So let's embiggen that. So this we printed and also put on Talk Origins, but we actually bought a website for this. We bought the domain darwindisproved.com, and we put this story on that, and then we leaked that to Talk Origins and whatnot. So it starts. My name is Stefan. My last name is not important. My story it is. I have an incredible story to tell, which is being hushed up by scientists and governments all over the world. Darwin's theory of the evolution of species has been disproved, but everyone is covering it up. I kept some photographs of this event. Now I am telling the world. An American friend is helping me post this story to the internet. It is the only way I could think of to get these amazing facts out before it's too late. I don't know how long I can keep this website up. I use my own words, so it is my story. Sorry about not perfect English. Mm-hmm. It began when I became visiting grad student to America from where I was studying at the University of Heidelberg. I came to work with my paleontology professor, Dr. Heinschwagel, who is an expert of dinosaur studies. We came to New Mexico in the Southwest and worked in the Morrison Formation, over 140 million years old. Every day we would leave the student quarters in Albuquerque and travel 70 kilometers northwest to the site. Of course, that's misspelled as a tell. It was hardly winter there at all. They said this year was dry, and so we worked early in the year. And in late February 1999, we made a discovery that shakes the world. We found a fossil of a hominid being eaten by an Allosaurus dinosaur. Look at the picture. And there it is, the Oñate Man tableau. We, basically, my dad had some casts of dinosaurs in his dinosaur studio, and he had a cast of dead Pan, which was the skeleton of Pan, the satyr, and it had horns, and it had goat's legs. So we covered up the horns as we buried it in our pseudo-geology tableau. And we covered up the legs. And then that helped us come up with the name Oñate Man, because Don Juan de Oñate was said to have cut off the feet of some of the locals that he was arguing with. So a skeleton with no feet, Oñate Man. So that was one of the little details. Of course, it is the impossible in Darwin's theory for hominids to have been lived 140 million years ago. In the 70s, there was talk of a human fossil called Moab Man found in dinosaur deposits, and this is, of course, a creationist story. Also, Morrison Formation near Moab of Utah, but this case was controversial because some claimed the human skeleton fell into a crevice in the dinosaur layers. No one can tell because the remains were taken away and never tested. And that is what is happening again. This time, all the evidence of this incredible find has been taken away, except for a few photos which I managed to keep. They had me taking some photographs at the dig, and my camera had a half-shoot roll of film, so I got about 8 shots taken before when I had to change the film. Then I shoot 2 more rolls. After that, one of the guards came and made me give him all of the film. He said it would be very bad if I did not cooperate. I could be returned to Germany, and I was pretty scared. I gave him the 2 full rolls I shot, and I was so scared and worried, I forgot about the roll that had the 8 shots. When we returned to Albuquerque, I remembered and hid the films till I returned home. Now my friend has been putting them on the internet so everyone can learn what has happened and how they are covering it all up. The professor said this is not like the Moab Man. He said there was no evidence that showed Moab Man was true, but he said our bones of the hominid and the dinosaur were together in hard sandstone, and that they had to become the fossils at the same time 140 million years ago in the Upper Jurassic. The dinosaur is apparently trying to eat the caveman, and then both became killed in some event. Perhaps the Allosaurus choked on his food. We were not able to find the foot bones of the hominid, and the Americans started calling it Oñate Man after some local politician. They thought it was funny, but I didn't see how. The professor said Oñate Man was almost like Homo erectus, but different in a few features. This picture shows one of the guards, another student, and Professor Heinschwagel working on final cleaning before the casting. The guard was named Billy. He said he was in the Marines before. He kidded around some with the students, but he got real mean when he needed something like my photos. The girl in the photo was called Pilar Pendeja or something like that. And if you know Spanish, pendeja is an asshole. So that was one of her clues. She is from New Mexico, and she is only a grad student, but also a real expert of fossil preparation. I learned greatly working with her. And I believe that is Kim's daughter, Kim Johnson's daughter, and son, Jesse. That's my dad, David A. Thomas, and the Oñate Man tableau. After the cast was made, around the whole specimens lifted into the truck, it was driven off. They told us not to discuss it with anyone. no one would believe us, and our geology careers would be ruined, but mostly that other scientists would rush to publish it first if word of this find was exposed. So it all had to be very secret, they said, but they are never going to tell the story. It's all being covered up because the scientists think they're going to lose their jobs if everyone learns evolution wasn't true after all. Only I can tell the story. I cannot reveal my true name, but my wonderful American friend is helping me to reveal the truth to the whole world. Thank you for reading these pages. I don't know how long I can keep this website open, so tell people you know to look soon before they make me take it down. Here's a picture of the site where the dig was. It is on rough land, but the trucks could make it up to the dig. It's 30 kilometers or so from where was found the remains of Seismosaurus, who they said was the largest land animal ever. At first, we worked with men from the BLM, but when we found the hominid, some other men from the state started coming out instead of the BLM workers, and that's when Billy started coming. And there's me and my son Benjamin, and Kim's kids, Jesse and Katie, and my dad. This is one of the government trucks. I cannot find the New Mexico State Resources Paleo Division or Paul Hawk's director in any phone book or internet search, and the phone number they gave us is now disconnected. These were the men who didn't come until we learned what the Allosaurus was eating. They didn't talk to anyone very much except quietly to the professor and to their little black phones. So this is a great sort of built-in explanation of why you can't find the people in this story. And one of the big criticisms we got was a Toyota truck. People said, well, should have been a Ford, a Chevy, so therefore it's a prank. And, live and learn. Here it shows a close-up of the hominid's head. Everyone said the teeth were almost human. No one knows what happened to the top of the skull, but the rest was in perfect conditions. And of course, you can't see Deadpan's horns. Here's Billy the guard on lookout before final casting, while others was going to get the plastering cloths. I took many more pictures of the fossils digging plastering, but they took those away. Counting the guards, the government men, the students, and the professor, there were 12 people that know about what was found. I have left the university for a temporary time until something happens. Hey, it's Kim. Hey, Kim, we were just talking about you. So here is the continuation. I want the story to come out. It is the only way I can feel safe that I have come this far. If you were a serious scientist or researcher, I maybe can have sent you prints of some of the actual photos. I have negatives. But I cannot have them sent to everyone, only to real, serious science researchers or news people. This story must be heard. This is the only fleck of evidence we have. Show me you were a serious researcher by having published articles at a real website, such like the Albuquerque Journal, with your email address posted on the same website. And then good old Alcazares at yahoo.com. Thank you for reading this. Please tell your friends. Don't let the scientists keep the truth from the world.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you intentionally put the word fleck in proximity to the word Albuquerque Journal?
I think we were fishing for fleck. I do.
Yeah.
Do you remember Kim? Kim has joined the meeting.
Kim, you're muted.
Muted. You're muted, Kim.
I see your mouth moving, but nothing's coming out.
The answer is yes. I remember that and say, "Ooh, that would be cool." I don't know whether Dave did it or I did it, but that's the way it came out.
It was one of the things we cooked up. Yeah, let me.
I'm eating here, guys. I'm late, but so I've got to eat.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, you go ahead. I'm going to find the pranks and fun. Here we go. Onyate Man. So this has a couple more pictures of the the tableau. And so let me share that. Okay. And so this is our explanation. What you saw was the archive of the original story on darwindisprove.com, which has long since shut down. But you can still feast. And this points to where we have archived it. And then, oh yeah, we got some nice mentions. And Onyati Man goes to Mars. Let's see. Yes, that is still there. So somebody took one of the Martian rovers and they merged Onyati Man right in there on the surface of Mars. Oh, that was classy. But the biggest fish that we caught was Kent Hovind. And I think this page, yeah. So there's part of the original prank. This was actually the sign we made for the truck. There is no Stefan. Here's the reveal with my sons Ben and Matt, and there's Deadpan in all his glory with his horns and his goat legs, and there is a live pen sculpture too. So there was no Pilar Pendeja. We originally called her Pilar Lofo, but the folks at Alt Atheism soon figured out that was an anagram for April Fool. So we changed her name to Pendeja, which resulted in statements of shocked outrage. I forgot this. Humphreys remarked, the last name of the girl Stefan mentions, Pilar Pendeja, is a Spanish obscenity. No New Mexican family would have that last name, and there was nothing close to that last name in the Albuquerque phone book with which Stefan could have confused it. Humphreys correctly assumed Stefan's story was fictitious, although he made this assessment without seeing the pictures. However, Pendeja is only mildly obscene, being used by many a devout Christian with a wink when among friends, a colloquialism for jerk or asshole in Spanish. Billy the Guard, we wanted something that sounded like Billy the Kid. Paul Hoax, sound it out. Rhymes with hoax. And there is no Onyati Man. What did Humphrey say about that? The name Onyati Man, connected with the alleged missing feet, is just too neat a joke, at least for New Mexicans. 4 centuries ago, a Spanish explorer named Oñate, pronounced as if there was a Y after the N, cut off the right, I think, foot of every warrior in a rebellious Pueblo tribe. A few years ago, somebody cut off the right foot of a statue of Oñate. Most Anglo and Indian New Mexicans think that was pretty funny, and there has been a steady stream of jokes. There is lifting the fiberglass cast of Deadpan. So yeah, here's a little bit about the origin. Paul Gamble, one of our creationist visitors to NMSR quite often, we had sort of a debate. He gave the case for intelligent design, and one of the things I mentioned was, what would disprove evolution? Well, if you found a human inside an Allosaurus skeleton eaten, that would really put a wrinkle in evolution. It would falsify our present understanding, which is this would never happen. There's 65 million years between the Allosaur and the hominid. So that cartoon was the birth of the idea. And as German colleagues Hans and Franz would say, the typical too much dust on the moon or evolution violates second law of thermodynamics, those creationist arguments are wimpy, pathetic, girly man evidence. And if creationists want to impress real scientists, they need manly man evidence like Oñate would have been if only he had been real. A Pegasus, that would be outstanding with its mix of mammalian and avian features. Evolution's prediction, none will be found ever. intelligent designs prediction, or what was the question? So, and that's on our website. Yeah, Deadpan was a sculpture by Bob Slaughter. Oh, okay, a friend of my father's, and Kim and Mark Boslough helped, and so all three of the what do you call us there? Uh, uh, the the Darwinist cabal. What's that name the intelligent design trio called us?
Don't remember.
Yeah, they had a name for us. Uh, okay, and so yeah, Katie played Pilar Lofo or Pilar Pendeja, Ben and Matt. So the oh yeah, here's website hits for April and May, and the weekend of April 24th, the number of creationists discussing it increased dramatically, and then the initial growth is rapid, then levels off as niches are filled. So this shows sort of a typical evolutionary cycle. And people track down DarwinDisproved.com to Kim Johnson, but no creationists cracked the website info. It was scientists and reporters only, and here's some of the reactions. So yeah, the Toyota was a giveaway. The Allosaur bones looked too black, and they were too shiny.
Dave, I have a question.
Yes.
So Russell Humphreys, did he identify it as a prank before or after it had already been exposed as a prank?
I think before. He was just giving his comments on this thing that the creationists were all abuzz about. And he was saying, well, it seems like too neat. So I think he was certainly leaning toward the prank.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Dave, what's the significance of a Toyota truck?
It was that was my dad's truck. So, but some of the criticism was that it should have been a Ford truck or a Chevy, and that it made it more obviously a prank.
So the argument was that if it had been a state agency vehicle, it would not have been a Toyota.
Yeah,
but that actually is, in a way, it makes the prank better because, if you were only pretending to be a state agency, as these guys were, in the story, right? Stefan, they were trying to trick Stefan into thinking they were official, but really they were just pretending to Stefan they were official. So the Toyota, in a way, works out in the favor of the prank.
Yeah, I could see that interpretation.
It's sort of a double, yeah.
Yeah, I think coming up is our big fish, some small fish. This must be before Kent Hovind bit it. There's Kim giving the chimpanzee salute, according to Jane Goodall. And wow, so there is the Kent Hovind. So he was our biggest catch, and he's back now. He was in jail for several years, but
Kent Hovind.
He's out of jail, making a lot of YouTube videos, but he won our 2000 P.T. Barnum One Born Every Minute Award because he, on May 7th, 99, in a packed room in Philadelphia, Kent Hovind urged his audience to study convincing new evidence of humans living with dinosaurs, and it's all at DarwinDisproved.com. And so then we gave him an award. I emailed him, and then he replied he wanted a debate, and of course a debate with Kent Hovind is really just an altar call. It's a passion play. The poor evolutionist gets to play the part of Satan or a clown, something. But basically, it's a vehicle to convert people to Kent Hovind's really fundamentalist branch of Christianity. And we said, no, we're not going to help you recruit clowns, but if you want to debate, we'll be happy to debate you on our website and newsletter. And he told us to get lost. Are the presidential candidates clowns? Public open debate is healthy. And so I responded, is that what you're afraid of, letting the people have time to think about and research your remarks? Come on. He said, I'm not the least bit afraid, but I don't have time. Read Nehemiah 6:3. And I said, hey, Proverbs 19:5, Jeremiah 23:32. And then he cut off the exchange, saying, schedule a time for a debate when you work up the courage. So here's the citations. So this is Hovind's. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? So that's basically, I'm too busy to debate you. I'm doing the Lord's work. And Proverbs, a false witness shall not be unpunished. He that speaketh lies shall not escape. Behold, Jeremiah, I'm against them that prophesy false dreams, cause my people to err by their lies, by their lightness, yet I sent them not, nor commanded them. Therefore they shall not profit this people at all, saith the Lord.
Dave, you should have tried to get him to debate you from jail.
Well, he does debate people on YouTube, and he's debated, I think, Conspiracy Cats and Simon Dan. And one of my students from my science and pseudoscience class offered to, talk to email Hovind and try to get a debate going. And I said, well, sure. So I want to debate on the age of the Earth, and I'm going to take the position that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. So get him to debate that, and I have not heard back. So yeah, maybe I should try him myself. I don't know how hard that student tried, but maybe I could get Simon Dan to put in a word for me.
Dave, was that Darwinist SWAT team?
That's the one I was thinking of, the Darwinist SWAT team. We even had buttons made for that. So, yeah. Excellent.
So, Dave.
Yes.
Can I say a few words about the Christmas roast?
The Christmas roast.
Do you remember the Christmas roast?
Help me remember, because I don't remember. I'm not remembering it too much.
Well, good. Can you pull up the Snopes? Go to Snopes and type in Christmas roast.
Alrighty then. So we were just on Snopes recently.
Yeah.
So I'll just type it in and
Christmas roast. I think that's what it's called.
Good enough. Okay, and Christmas roast.
Christmas roast.
And
so this is a sort of an inadvertent hoax. Let's see.
Microwaved workman?
Yeah. Microwaved workman.
Okay.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. I thought you were talking like a roast of Don Rickles or Dean Martin, that kind of roast.
Oh, no.
Mark, they pulled that up, and I said Mark Boslough. There was no doubt who that was.
Yeah.
Who did
Let's dig in this
cool.
and have a look.
So this was only like less than a year after Alabama Pie.
Right.
And I was reading email, and my brother-in-law, it was on New Year's Eve, and my brother-in-law, I think it was New Year's Eve, the night before we flipped to 1999. And so I got a list, like you often get, one of these lists of Darwin Awards, and it was like the top 10 Darwin Awards of 1998. And I decided to write my own. You know, it's like I thought these can't be true, they're made up, you know, like that jet assisted takeoff, you know, car that ran into the cliff in Arizona. You know, a lot of them look like they're totally made up, and I think they are. So I thought, okay, I can make up a better one. And so what I did was I took the ones that my brother-in-law sent, which were the ones that were circulating, and I added one at the bottom, and I said, and this is the award winner for 1998. And I made up this completely ridiculous story about a workman who he was, I called it the Northern Manitoba Signal Relay, which is, the initials are NMSR, because I wanted you to find it.
You're here.
And I put in a lot of clues, and I sent it to you, and I don't know who all, I don't think I sent it to you. Because I figured if it went by, or if somebody posted it somewhere, you'd see it. But it ended up, unbeknownst to me, it did go viral. But I didn't know that until the following summer, and I was visiting my mom in Colorado, and I was, you know, headed to the airport, and she said, here, you know, here's the paper came today. I haven't opened it yet. You know, why don't you take it with you and read it on the plane? So I got on the plane on my flight from Denver to Albuquerque, and I was relaxing, and I opened it up, and on the first page, my story was there. And it was some gullible columnist who had seen it, and he didn't do his research, and he thought it was real. So it had actually made the front page of the Denver Post within 6 months of when I just randomly circulated this internet, this email. I don't know how it got there.
Wow. So, it's hard. There we go. There we go. NMSR Darwin Award wins.
Yeah.
Here it is. Manitoba, Canada. Telephone relay company night watchman Edward Baker, 31, was killed early Christmas morning by excessive microwave radiation exposure. He was apparently attempting to keep warm next to a telecommunications feed horn. Baker had been suspended on a safety violation once last year, according to Northern Manitoba Signal Relay spokesperson Tanya Cook. She noted that Baker's earlier infraction was for defeating a safety shutoff switch and entering a restricted maintenance catwalk in order to stand in front of the microwave dish. He had told co-workers it was the only way he could stay warm during his 12-hour shift at the station, where winter temperatures often dip to 40 below zero. Microwaves can heat water molecules within human tissue in the same way that they heat food in microwave ovens. For his Christmas shift, Baker reportedly brought a 12-pack of beer and a plastic lawn chair, which he positioned directly in line with the strongest microwave beam. Baker had not been told about a tenfold boost in microwave power planned that night to handle the anticipated increase in holiday long-distance calling traffic. Baker's body was discovered by the daytime watchman, John Burns, who was greeted by an odor he mistook for a Christmas roast he thought Baker must have prepared as a surprise. Burns also reported to NMSR company officials that Baker's unfinished beers had exploded. Wow, that is some story.
Mark, that was really, the thing is, that had a shred of truth. Most good real jokes do. And remember the DuLine soldiers that used to go, I mean, you know, I even spoke to one once. Oh yeah, well, it was really cold up there. We'd go out and stand in front of the big radar dishes and we'd get warm. It's like, holy cow, don't you know what you were doing to yourself? Yeah, later. That showed up. It said NMSR, and Dave, I remember Dave showing it to me. I don't know where it came from. And I said, that's Mark.
And here is a story about the Denver Post, August 9th, 1999, and we reported it in our newsletter. Darwin Awards pay homage to the monkey and man. And so this is Dick Kreck, the columnist. Some of these are little more than urban legends, but who cares? And the winner in this year's poll is from Canada. Edward Baker, 32, a telephone relay company night watchman, was killed early Christmas morning by excessive microwave radiation exposure. Wow. Say no more. Oh, and there. Oh, so Mark wrote to Craig and said, "Dear Mr. Craig, thank you so much for reprinting my Darwin Award hoax in the Denver Post. Like you, I'm a skeptic and have always been very suspicious of these stories. However, I'm also a scientist, so I decided to do a little experiment. And I made up the most outrageous, twisted death by stupidity tale I could imagine. I made sure all the characters in the story had names, Baker, Burns, Cook, that would give away my joke to any wary reader. I set the story in a location that allowed the company Northern Manitoba Signal Relay to have the same acronym as New Mexicans for Science and Reason. And I took a list of Darwin Awards that somebody sent me, attached my own creation, which I declared to be this year's winner, turned it loose by emailing it to a few out-of-state friends on New Year's Day. Seeing it this week in the Post is a bit like getting a response to a note in a bottle 8 months after throwing it into the ocean. It is also a good lesson why we should all be skeptical of what we see on the internet, not to mention what we read in the newspaper. And he talks about how I gave a talk at the Rocky Mountain Skeptics, and I discovered the hoax and correctly attributed it to Mark. I had searched for NMSR under Deja News and recognized my brand of humor when his search turned up my story. So I guess I was the one. And here's what Craig said. This is funny. Is my face red? More than usual, I mean. Last week I did the very thing I'm always warning anyone who will listen. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. And the winner of the annual Darwin Awards made a loser out of me. Oh, this is great. Then he explains how it was Mark Boslough from Albuquerque. Yeah. So I guess this means the so-called winner didn't really get roasted sitting in front of a microwave dish. I had forgotten quite about that one. That's one of our great pranks there.
So are you going to do another one, Mark?
You know, I have tried a few times. I did one, and I actually got it. Somebody posted it on a KUNM News website, and it was called, well, maybe you can Google it. It's probably still sitting out there somewhere. And it was called Changing Seasons. Changing Seasons. And you might put my name on there because it's probably, yeah. Yeah.
Puckerclust.
Oh, Puckerclust.
Yeah, this one never really took off, to my disappointment.
Reprinted from the Huffington Post. Did you get it on the Huffington Post?
Well, I had an account on Huffington Post, so that was, yeah, that was where I put it. And anyway, this was a climate change related one, and but yeah, it never took off, and I tried it several years in a row, and finally I gave up. I quoted
well, sometimes you strike gold.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you inadvertently strike gold.
Pyrite.
Sometimes it seems like the harder you try, the less likely it is to work.
Yeah. Well, we had some good ones there. This looks like a pretty fun one. Okay.
Wait, hey, back up, Dave.
Yeah.
That looks like Bill. This guy, right? The guy
Bill
sitting
Feeney?
there. Yeah.
Looks like who?
Looks
this
like
guy,
Bill
the
Feeney.
naked
Yeah,
guy?
look at that. The hair and the
what do you say, Bill?
shades on there.
No, it is not me.
I don't think it's Bill.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, I tried to work a bunch of jokes into this one too, but you know, it didn't really take. And I tried to adopt that same tone I did in Alabama Pie, where you know, the reporter who doesn't really know much about science, who's like trying to explain things and doesn't really get it. And also kind of the both siderism thing that a lot of journalists have fallen into, where you've got a scientist and someone who's not so well versed in science, and they're like given equal weight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was John Oliver that had a great send up of that. He had a statistically balanced climate change debate, and arguing for climate change was, of course, Bill Nye, because every time you turn on cable news, there's Bill Nye talking about climate change, arguing with some climate change denier, and then he had two more scientists come out, and then he had 97, or actually, so Bill Nye was there. I think he had 3 deniers come out, and then 96 scientists came to support Bill Nye, and they were, 97 scientists trying to shout at the 3 deniers, look at our data, and of course it was a big mess, but it made the point that these, debates that are presented as two equals, often they're very lopsided. And that's why Deborah Lipstadt, the author about Holocaust denial, she flat never debates a Holocaust denier. She says it elevates them to respectability, and it's not her job to debate known facts. So
and I tend to, like, on the climate change, when people tell me that we should present both sides of the climate change debate, I always ask, well, which is the other side that you want? Do you want me to debate a doomist, somebody who says we're absolutely doomed no matter what we do, because that's just as valid as the denialist side, and their numbers are probably actually greater. So if you're going to do a two-sided debate, you should probably debate those people.
Good point.
Remember when you debated Lennox?
Oh yeah, that wasn't really a debate.
It wasn't, but it was weird.
Yeah, it was. So there was what was that guy's name?
Lennox.
Yeah.
John Lennox.
Yeah, Lennox, the
John Lennox,
mathematician from Oxford, I think.
Right.
He's still around, by the way, doing the same thing.
So yeah, so I think he wanted, they pitched it as a debate. Originally, they said we want to debate on, I don't know if it was creationism or if it was just about the existence of God or something like that. And I think it was actually about the existence of God. And
right.
And I said, well, I'm a scientist. I, can't really say one way or the other on that. Let's talk about something I know something about. Let's talk about climate change, and maybe we should debate how to deal with it, or maybe we should just discuss it from the science perspective and from the faith perspective. And finally, they ended up agreeing that would be a good thing to engage these young evangelicals, and they loved it. And a lot of them came up to me afterwards, and they were very happy that we kind of had this congenial non-debate where we came at the whole subject from different perspectives.
Yeah, and I remember you saying you had decided to become non-confrontational on that, which worked out very well. I mean, people listen better when it.
I think so. I mean, these debates, these stage debates are like, aimed at circus clowns, like Dave was saying, some of them, and they don't really accomplish anything because, a debate for show, you're not trying to convince each other of anything or educate anyone.
Right.
Alrighty. Well, it's after 8:30. Anybody have any more comments to add? It's probably time to think about closing up shop. That was a marvelous discussion.
Yeah, it was good to reminisce about these stories. What year did you do Oñate Man? I can't remember.
That was 99, the year
That was
after
also 99. So we had
Alabama.
So as we approached the new millennium, I think we had a whole spate of those, and those were we were kind of on the leading edge of fake news, I guess, and internet-based misinformation.
Yeah, I think it's much harder now to do an April Fool's kind of thing or misinformation. I think you have to be a lot more clever and not do it April or late March. But
Yeah.
I'm up for trying again.
Did anyone ever see the one on the flying penguins that they discovered in Brazil?
Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think they had Richard Attenborough actually doing it too.
Yeah. David Attenborough?
David Attenborough, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, and it looked so believable. Yeah, I kind of think we kind of locked in we kind of created a niche in a way, back in the late 90s, but it immediately got swamped by, the World Wide Web. And, I mean, when we were doing it, it was news groups and email. And now it's too easy. And so there's too many people doing it now.
Yep, you got to come up with something else, Mark. Not the same thing. I mean, something a little different to come in and give everybody.
Somewhere I have a list of ideas, but I never seem to be able to find it in late March. So, and then by the time it gets to mid-April, like it is now, it's too late.
Oh, well.
All righty. Well, there's plenty of new topics. We could start a pillow company.
We did do one. Remember that one we did, Dave, where we sent Marshall Berman a fake invitation to review like an encyclopedia on origin stories or something? You remember that one?
No, I don't remember that one.
Yeah. And we had like a 1,000 origin stories or something like that. And I think our whole point was what I was saying about, well, what are the two sides? There's evolution, and then there's 9,999 other, religious versions of how everything was created. And it's like, why are we debating only the Christians? It's like, shouldn't we debate these 9,999 other people? I mean, they should all get an equal chance, right?
Yeah.
I remember that point. Didn't you make that to like Jeannie Scott at NCSE or somebody? I remember hearing you making that point.
Yeah. Well, we kind of tried to turn it into a hoax, and we kind of snagged Marshall, and I think he wasn't too happy.
I do not remember that part.
Yeah.
So I did get a cartoon
Marshall he wasn't getting the joke, and so he agreed to review it.
Well, sometimes you had to point it out to him. He was a pretty straightforward guy.
I got a cartoon into the Rio Rancho Observer that had, let's teach alternate theories in science class, and it had Cthulhu and Flying Spaghetti Monster and Christianity and Judaism and Hindu, and just had them all. And then a chimp was talking to Charlie Darwin on the side, and the chimp said, "Looks like they're not going to have any time to study science." And Darwin kind of grumbles, "Yeah, that's the point." But the Observer, I think. Oh, alrighty. Any? Yes, looks like Austin. Are you waving, or you have a question? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
I bet he's just waving.
Oh,
bye-bye.
There he goes.
Bye. I just want to say bye-bye. Thank you. Terrific talk.
All right, way fun. Well, thanks everybody. We're still working on next month's program, but we'll come up with something here. This was a fun one. And take care, everybody. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh, take care.
Thanks, Dave. Great job.
All righty. And thanks, Mark, for coming out. And share that YouTube video with your friends.
See you.
Jeopardy. That was pretty amazing. People called me, "You're on Jeopardy!" That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Hey, what are we going to do for the 25th anniversary, though? You know, that's
Yeah. Yeah, that's only a couple years. Let's think about it.
okay. We have time to plan, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.